Good afternoon. Welcome to the Tom Sampson Media Center at the Calgary Emergency Operations Center here in Calgary for an update on the Bearspaw feeder main repair. Today you will hear from Calgary Emergency Operations Chief Susan Henry. You'll hear from City of Calgary Infrastructure Services General Manager Michael Thompson, and you'll hear from our Mayor Jeremy Farkas. Following their updates, we will take questions from you. One question, one follow. And with that, I'll turn it over to Chief Henry.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Sue Henry, the Chief of the Calgary Emergency Management Agency. I'm joined today by General Manager of Infrastructure Services, Michael Thompson, and Mayor Jeremy Farkas. We're here to provide an update on the Bearspaw South feeder main repair, the steps we're taking to protect nearby communities, and what we continue to need from Calgarians right now. We're pleased to share some positive updates with you today. Early this morning, eastbound 16th Avenue was fully reopened ahead of the Wednesday morning commute. Westbound 16th Avenue will reopen in phases. Right now, one lane is open. The right turn lane and curb remain closed. The curb and turn lanes need more time for the road base to stabilize after our pavement repair work. The repair is temporary due to the time of year. Mobility crews will be back in the spring to complete a more permanent repair. Thank you, Calgary, for your patience and support. We know the commute in this area has been challenging, and we appreciate your understanding as we work to repair the water break site and bring the feeder main back into service. Calgarians will see an increased presence of city crews and emergency responders in the area around the feeder main as we return to service. This increased presence of crews and emergency responders will be in place until approximately Friday. The protective measures, such as the partial removal of the flood berm, installing barriers along the pathways, clearing catch basins, replacing manhole covers, and having pumps ready to deploy in low-lying areas is complete. We cannot guarantee that this pipe will not break as we bring it back into service. These mitigation measures are about us being prepared to respond to any situation. GM Michael Thompson will walk you through the steps and forecasted timeline for bringing the Bearspaw feeder main into service shortly. Before he does, I want to remind all Calgarians how important it is to continue conserving water. Yesterday, water use was 499 million litres, a move in the right direction, and I want to thank and acknowledge every Calgarian that is helping. Our target demand remains at 485 million litres. Calgary, we are almost there. Your patience and commitment have made a real difference, and together we are working together to overcome this challenge. While the finish line is in sight, we need your help just a little bit longer to conserve water. As we get closer to having the Bearspaw feeder main into service, every litre of water counts. We want to keep the level of the Glenmore Reservoir as high as possible to ensure we have enough water to last until spring runoff begins. Thank you for standing with us through this. Your collective efforts is what makes our city strong and resilient. We will continue to keep you updated and look forward to lifting these restrictions very soon. I'll now pass it over to GM Michael Thompson.
Thank you, Chief Henry. Good afternoon. I'm Michael Thompson, General Manager of Infrastructure Services with the City of Calgary. Yesterday, crews collected samples to confirm if the water in the Bearspaw South feeder main meets or exceeds drinking water standards set by Alberta Health Services and Alberta Environment in Protected Areas. I am pleased to share that lab tests have confirmed that the water is safe to drink. This means we were able to begin the next steps to restore water service and eventually lift water restrictions. Last night, we began the process to gradually reconnect the feeder main to the larger water distribution network. This morning, we turned on our first set of pumps, beginning the gradual introduction of flow of water into the pipe. The system will require 24 hours to stabilize before advancing to the next phase. Tomorrow morning, we will turn on additional pumps to further increase flow through the pipe. The system will again require 24 hours to stabilize. And then Friday morning, we will turn on the final pump in returning the feeder main to service. As I have mentioned before, returning the Bearspaw South feeder main to service is a delicate process. We can't guarantee there won't be another break during this time. So we are proceeding very carefully and gradually to return this pipe into service safely. If everything remains stable, we could lift restrictions by the end of the week. As we start flowing water through this pipe, some residents may notice that their water appears cloudy. This will resolve over time. You may also experience a higher chlorine smell in your water for a short period of time after the feeder main is returned to service. Chlorine levels were increased during the filling of the feeder main as part of the return to service process. Please know that the water is safe to drink. Turning on the first set of pumps is a significant milestone. However, we are not out of the woods yet. As Chief Henry mentioned, we still need your help to get across the finish line. Please continue to conserve water while we go through these critical steps. The more water we can all save as we return this pipe to service keeps more water in the Glenmore Reservoir now, supporting all of us until the Elbow River flows increase in the spring to recharge the reservoir. As I have mentioned before, just as you rely on water, right now the water system is relying on you. Thank you, Calgary, for your continued patience and understanding as we work to safely bring the pipe into service. And I'll now pass it over to Mayor Farkas.
Good afternoon. Thank you, GM Thompson and Chief Henry. Good afternoon, Calgary. Thank you to each and every Calgarian who has worked through their frustration to reduce their water use. You have helped protect our water system, and we need to work together just for a little bit longer. As we've just heard, crews have now successfully filled the feeder main and confirmed that the water is clean, safe to drink, and the system continues to be tested and stabilized. This is a significant step forward. It tells us the repair is holding, the system is responding as expected, and the work is progressing safely. We know that this whole pipe is still sick, and we know we're still in uncharted territory. So we can't breathe easy until the new pipe is in the ground and online. But we are almost at the end of this chapter, and we can look forward to what is next. As we complete this phase, we have to remember that this is not just about getting water back in the pipe, it's about doing it right. Filling and testing are critical to ensuring water quality and protecting the integrity of the system before moving ahead. Rushing this stage would create unacceptable risk to Calgarians. And that's why we're going as fast as we can, while still making sure we are doing it right and doing it safely. With this milestone reached, crews are now moving into the next phase of work, which includes continued monitoring, pressure management, and preparing for the gradual return of operations. Each step builds on the last, and we will continue to move forward carefully and deliberately. While this is good progress, we are not out of the woods yet. Continued water conservation is still so important as our water system stabilizes. Every effort Calgarians make helps support this next phase and reduces stress on the system. I also want to recognize and thank the amazing city crews, engineers, and other members of administration, including the terrific team right here at the EOC, who've been working around the clock since December 30th, and everyone else who has gotten us to this point. This milestone is real progress, and it's because of the skilled work and a community that stepped up to support us. So thank you to our crews and their professionalism. Thank you to Calgarians for your continued support. And we'll continue to keep sharing updates as we move forward, one careful, tested step at a time. We're happy to answer your questions.
Weather Network.
Yeah, Weather Network. I just wanted to kind of follow up on the stuff with the Glenmore Reservoir. Have we actually seen a noticeable drop in the levels there that we wouldn't see this time of year, or is there any, I don't know if there's any dams upstream on the Elbow, but has there had to be any work done in coordination with any other facilities to sort of maintain water levels there?
Thank you for the question. So question's really about the Glenmore Reservoir and if we've seen a noticeable drop in the Glenmore Reservoir. And the answer is yes. We have been using approximately 3 times the typical amount of water out of the Glenmore Reservoir that we would use during the winter. And that's why we're so concerned about keeping as much water as we can in the reservoir right now. So as we had mentioned before, the Glenmore Reservoir acts like a battery. And we need to keep as much water in the reservoir, as much in that battery as we can until those spring runoffs start and it refills that reservoir.
And I guess we've seen a lot of snow in the Rockies this winter. Is it looking promising up there that, say, we do have to keep pulling water up there, that hopefully we make it to the spring runoff before seeing a significant drop. But what can you tell me about how the snowpack in the mountains might impact our ability to sort of refresh that once things start melting?
So the question's really about the snowpack in the mountains and what that future forecast looks like. And so the teams are comfortable and confident with the snowpack in the mountains. The real question is the timing when that snow will melt and what the weather temperatures look like in the spring. And so obviously if it's a warmer spring, that snow will melt faster and the Glenmore Reservoir will recharge quicker. If it's a cooler spring, it'll take more time. And that's really what we're watching as we watch at the inflows into the reservoir.
Yeah, just for Chief Henry, how long do you expect the water barriers to be up along the Parkdale pathway? And what's the timeline, or how long will the community contingency efforts be in place?
We're focused right now on making sure that we bring this pipe back into service safely, and that's what the mitigation that you'll see in the community is about. There are teams working downstairs on what that looks like longer term as we look towards fast-tracking the repair of the pipe and what community measures will still need to be in place, so that information is still to come.
So if we do get past this event, is there an expectation that those contingency plans could be still in effect till spring when that next level of work can be done?
Yes, it is likely that some form of mitigation will be in place in the community until we have a new pipe.
Yeah, maybe this is for GM Thompson. I'm just wondering, as this gradual return to service is happening, what exactly is the point that you could stop that gradual return? Are you looking for, is it another break, or is it hot spots? Because I know when this happened in 2024, it was kind of shut down when different hotspots were found. What's the caution level there? I mean, what would make you guys really slam the brakes on?
Yeah, so the question is, what are we watching as we're returning this pipe to service and as we're going slowly and gradually? So a number of things that we're watching. Obviously, we are watching for another break in the line. And if the line breaks, we're ready to respond immediately. We have crews on site to turn valves off quickly. We have, as Chief Henry mentioned, a number of protection measures throughout the community, pumps deployed so that we could drain water quickly if there was another break. We're watching that fiber optic monitoring system that we mentioned before. As we filled the pipe with water, we heard 2 wire snaps, not in locations that are deemed critical, but we know that as we fill that pipe with water and as we return it to service, as the mayor said before, the pipe is terminally ill and it needs to be replaced. And so we're monitoring that pipe, and we're also looking at the pressure throughout the system and making sure everything's stable. We're taking our time to slowly and safely bring the pipe back into service. And then if everything goes well in 3 days, we will be happy and running it, but always ready. Should something happen, we're ready to respond quickly.
I guess to follow up on that, you said 2 more wire snaps were found as you guys were refilling that pipe. Is there kind of a number you have in mind, or a standard that, if we hear 15 of those as we repressurize, we need to really back away? Or is there a certain threshold that you guys are basing your decision on?
So the question was, is there a certain threshold? And as we've been really evaluating the pipe, we're now looking at a segment by segment basis. And so we look at each 4-meter segment of pipe along the entire length of the pipe, and we evaluate a number of conditions per segment that we're tracking. And so it's not just about wire snaps. That's one of the things we've been learning. There's a number of conditions that we're looking at and measuring as it goes forward. So we now watch per segment of pipe. And as I mentioned, we're ready to come back and do urgent repairs if required. The ideal time to do those urgent repairs is spring, when there's those increased inflows into the Glenmore Reservoir. So we're prepared to take action if required. The ideal time to do that work will be spring, once the inflows into the Glenmore Reservoir have picked up.
Roger Canada, and then Adam.
Yeah, this may be for Mayor Hawkins. Can you tell us more on how the work on accountability and governance is progressing with CDI as this is evolving?
Sure. The question relates to how is accountability progressing at City Hall, and I just want to make very clear that the buck stops with me. The buck stops with us as a City Council. Ultimately, as mayor, I'm responsible for public safety in the city, full stop. And I take that responsibility very seriously. So the independent panel report that council just received was very clear that this was not a single point of failure, but the result of more than 2 decades of a lack of governance and oversight into city administration, with some responsibility to be borne by successive city councils as well. But what matters now is how those mistakes are not repeated and how we fix those mistakes on a go-forward basis. So we've taken some very clear, concrete steps to strengthen accountability and oversight, both through City Council and within City Administration. And Calgarians are going to see that we're not just talking about change, we are implementing it. So at the same time, we're moving at lightning speed to get the replacement feeder main built and online, but this is very much about learning from the past and doing the hard work now to be able to protect Calgary's future. And here and now today, it is so urgent for Calgarians to continue to support our frontline crews, to do what we can to manage water use in the city so that we can deploy the short-term fix with an aim to be able to ensure that Calgarians on a go-forward basis never have to worry about safe, clean, and reliable drinking water. We're not fixing this just for today or tomorrow. We're fixing this for the next generation, once and for all. So when it comes to accountability, that accountability rests squarely with me as mayor, our city council, and we're getting this done.
Well, we've heard you talk about keeping the whole City Council united on this. We've heard divergent voices. Councillor Winers is kind of pushing a little bit on the speed and not putting enough time to review everything. How are you responding to that, and how are you keeping the whole team together moving forward?
For sure, and there's going to be really healthy debates over the course of the next coming months from council in terms of exactly how we action some of the recommendations in the report, whether it's a wholly owned subsidiary, a municipally controlled corporation. You know, there's some nuance in terms of the exact governance model, but here and now, our city council is united in terms of doing absolutely everything that it takes to ensure that Calgarians have access to safe and clean drinking water. We're actioning the short-term fix, as well as taking the needed measures to support our administration to build this replacement pipe faster than anything that we've ever done before. And in the long term as well, making sure that we're holding our city manager accountable, that we're holding our city administration accountable. But it's not just that, it's supporting our city staff, especially our frontline crews, with the resources to be able to get this job done. So it's a mix of short, medium, and long-term actions that we are taking here and now to show Calgarians that we are doing what's necessary to ensure that nobody has to worry about safe and clean and reliable drinking water ever again in the city.
I have a question about the pressures and the capacity of the pipe as it's brought back into service. It was mentioned earlier that this pipe will not be able to run at its full capacity as it did before. I'm curious, what capacity was it running at when it ruptured on December 30th, and what kind of pressure and capacity will it have to run with moving forward after it's brought back into service?
Thank you for the question. So really, what's the capacity through the pipe right now? And so as it sits today, we're turning on that first set of pumps, and we'll be running about 200 million liters of water a day through the pipe. Tomorrow, should everything go well, we change the configuration of pumps. We have a number of pumps at the Bears Paw Water Treatment Plant. We'll change those configurations, and we'll go up to about 225 million liters a day. We'll leave it for 24 hours. If it's able to stabilize and we're comfortable with it, on Friday we'll change that pump configuration and go up to 285 million liters a day. And that's where we would leave this pipe as we go forward, running about 285 million liters a day. With respect to how much water was flowing through it the day that it broke, I don't have that answer, but we'll get it back to you.
So how does the 285 compare to what it could run if this pipe was not terminally ill?
Yeah, with respect to what future pipe would be and what the replacement pipe, again, don't have that answer in front of me, but we can get that for you.
Just regarding if or when another break happens, what might that look like for Calgarians? I know the previous break was the geyser lifted a vehicle. Is that what it might look like again if this happens, or is there a lower threshold that you guys would know that there's an issue?
Yeah, so Is what does a break look like? And we would all see a lot of water coming out of this pipe. And that's why we have put those protection measures in place to the community to allow water to flow out quickly and to be able to respond quickly. And what would a repair look like? It would look like what we've just done. So we've got those spare parts that we've purchased. We've got crews available. You'll go out to the community and you'll see construction equipment sitting ready to respond should something happen so that we can respond quicker. We've got crews sitting on those or at those valves ready to turn those off should there be another break. So we are ready to respond should something happen.
And it's just a follow-up for Chief Henry. If this is to happen, I mean, we saw videos of Calgarians that escaping the vehicles through their sunroofs. Could you just, if, God forbid, some Calgarian ends up in a situation where they're needing to evacuate their vehicle in an emergency, what are some tips that you'd like to share with them?
Absolutely. So we cannot guarantee that this pipe won't fail as we bring it back into service. And as GM Thompson mentioned, the mitigation measures are really designed to do community level protection and help individuals. We're asking every Calgarian to also help us. If you hear or see something strange, call 311. If it is an emergency, call 911. And if we are in a situation where there is water in a roadway, we always ask folks not to drive into that roadway if there is water present on that roadway.
Canadian Press. Question for Jim.
So I know the independent report from last week had suggested that there were planned outages that were postponed or delayed in 2017, 2020, and 2022. Who made that call, or kind of what led to those delays or redirections of those inspections?
And so the question's really why wasn't this pipe taken out of service earlier to do inspections? And as I explained at committee yesterday, previously to take this pipe out of service would have required all Calgarians to go into water restrictions like we are right now to do a physical inspection of the pipe. And so decisions had been made not to do that because people assumed that the pipe was in good condition, had significant lifespan, and that it was available to go forward. We had planned to do an inspection of the pipe in 2024 using that device that we called the pipe diver that we actually used in 2024 after the breaks to do the inspections. And as I had mentioned at committee yesterday, it's not an easy task to inspect this pipe with that device called a pipe diver. You have to make changes at the plant or modify it, and the team was always concerned that it could get stuck in the pipe as it was doing the inspections. People may remember that it actually got stuck in the pipe in 2024, in the summer of 2024, when we used it to do the inspections. And we had to go and pull it out of the pipe. And so it wasn't an easy task. But what we've realized and what we've learned is we need to be inspecting all of these critical pieces of infrastructure on a regular basis going forward. And we can't just be focused on the probability that something will fail. We have to be looking at the consequence of what that would be and really increasing the amount of inspections we're doing and designing a redundant system so that if a piece of infrastructure has to be taken out of service, we have other pipes, other infrastructure that can carry that load.
I do want to follow up just kind of on discussions from yesterday about councillors looking to have City Manager Duckworth let go, and whether you think that that's the right path for accountability for City Council.
So the council committee had the opportunity yesterday evening to have a closed door session where we went through the overall review process for the city manager. And I just want to preface this by saying employment standards and law relating to HR means that we can disclose the city manager's compensation, but other elements in terms of performance review, marital history, health, all of those other things are subject to confidentiality. So there's a reason why this review process is done in camera. That said, following our council discussion, we came out of committee with a number of recommendations, largely significantly tightening up the overall performance review process for the city manager. It's very clear that past councils played it way too loose. in terms of providing firm direction with our city managers, as well as holding them accountable for results. So it's clear that our council is going to be doing things very differently when it comes to our expectations. We're going to be very clear in terms of what our expectations are, not just as a council, but also as an employer to our one employee. And we're going to hold our city manager accountable to results. But it's going to be very much through an objective process. It's not going to be one based on personality or feelings. It's very much going to be what is Calgarians' priorities, what are our collective priorities, and do we have staff in place to be able to execute? So our ongoing review process will be at least quarterly with our city manager, very clear in terms of expectations, and all options are on the table in terms of meeting performance. So our committee has the mandate to make recommendations, one of which is the continuation of employment, but also perhaps corrective action or termination if that performance isn't there. But it's really critical that we hold our city manager accountable, give very clear direction. But overall, we need to support our front line as well as support our amazing team at the city, especially over the next year and a half as we stick the landing on this replacement pipe. It is so critical that we rally together as Team Calgary to ensure that this needed work is done, that Calgarians can continue to rely on safe, clean, reliable drinking water. And that's the intent of our council, is to work together, performance manager, CEO, and ensure the results are delivered for Calgarians.
Final question goes to Daniel with Post Media. This is for Jim Thompson. I was just wondering if you'd be able to speak kind of more on the decision for Calgary to use steel as the replacement for the feeder main rather than something like HDPE.
Thanks. So the question really was the decision to use steel as the replacement for the feeder main. And so feeder mains of this size, we have a specification for the material we would use. Steel is one of the approved specifications that we have for a pipe of this size. A product like an HDPE pipe is available for us for a smaller diameter, but not for this size of diameter pipe going forward.
Yeah, and I have a follow-up for Chief Henry. There's a noticeable police presence at Bonus Park. Is that kind of in relation to what you mentioned earlier about increased presence of city officials just kind of with a pipeline?
Yes. So folks in the community will notice an increase in police presence as well as city utility crews. The fire department is also on scene, Alberta Health Services. That's really about our mitigation plans to be ready in any scenario. Folks will notice that. This morning they will have seen that. They will notice it tomorrow morning, and they will notice it Friday morning.
Sorry, folks, I lied. There is one last question coming from Canadian Press.
Mayor Parks. So the Alberta government says it's requesting all relevant information related to the Calgary water main, and it's stepping in to review the matters. This just came out just recently, so I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but if you could respond to the Alberta government stepping in.
Yeah, firstly, I just wanted to say thank you to the Premier as well as several ministers we have been in constant contact with, Minister Dreeshen, Ellis, Williams. I had the opportunity just the other day to meet with Minister Williams, and we expressed on a voluntary basis our willingness to work with the provincial government to provide any and all documentations and support of the independent panel report review. So we expect that formal request will be coming, but very much looking forward to working together with the provincial government for this information request. And from a general transparency standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to me to provide as much documentation as possible to the public. We need to provide the assurances that we have looked at every single possibility, every single contingency, and this regular release of information is really instrumental to building public confidence in our response, not just for the short term and the emergency response, but also in the long term as we implement those needed reforms. So again, very much welcome the continued engagement of the provincial government who have been with us every step of the way in terms of this response, but also on a go forward, looking at ways they can support us here in Calgary to deliver safe and reliable water system and utility.
Thank you for being here, folks, and thanks for the important role you play in keeping Calgarians informed.